The fall of Raymond Burke. Raymond Burke stood proudly at the entrance of his restaurant, Belle Maison, a French fine dining establishment tucked into a prestigious corner of the city's upper quarter. For over 2 decades, he had cultivated its reputation into an emblem of exclusivity. Politicians, tech tycoons, and celebrities regularly sought its private rooms, drawn to its promise of impeccable service and culinary perfection. Every detail mattered to Raymond: the polished cutlery, the hand-selected wines, the pristine white linens, and he ensured they were all reflections of his own refined standards. But underneath that polished facade, Raymond harbored convictions that hadn't evolved with the world around him. Though he was never openly hostile, his bias simmered beneath the surface, shaping decisions with a subtlety that allowed him to maintain deniability. To him, Belle Maison wasn't merely a restaurant. It was a sanctuary, and he considered it his right to determine who belonged within it. So, when a black couple arrived that evening, dressed in tasteful evening wear, clearly affluent, Raymond's smile faltered, almost imperceptibly. Everett and Simone Carter had made a reservation under Simone's name to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. Their elegance was undeniable. Everett's custom-tailored suit paired perfectly with Simone's deep crimson gown, her hair cascading in soft curls that framed her intelligent, warm expression. Raymond, despite years of hospitality training, instinctively categorized them as other. And in his mind, other didn't belong at Belle Maison. "Good evening," he said, his tone smooth as ever. "Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Everett replied with a gracious smile. "It's under Carter." Raymond barely nodded before whispering something to his maitre d'. The reservation, unfortunately for him, was indeed valid. Still, he led them to a small table near the kitchen doors, an area he typically reserved for walk-ins or guests he deemed unworthy of the dining room's central ambience. Everett noticed, but said nothing. Simone's fingers tightened momentarily around his. They'd experienced subtle slights before, but they had hoped Belle Maison would be different. Instead, they received delayed service. Their appetizers took 20 minutes longer than anyone else's. Servers avoided eye contact. The air was thick with microaggressions, but the Carters kept their composure. They had dressed with dignity, arrived with grace, and were now navigating hostility with resilience. When their entrees finally arrived, lukewarm and overcooked, Raymond approached their table under the pretense of customer service. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," he said, "I hope everything is to your satisfaction." Simone looked up with calm composure. "It's a beautiful restaurant. We're enjoying the evening." Raymond leaned in slightly, lowering his voice just enough to register as deliberate. "You know, we don't often receive guests from unfamiliar circles." Everett set down his fork. "Unfamiliar circles?" Raymond nodded. "Belle Maison caters to a specific clientele, a cultivated demographic." There it was. The mask dropped. Everett stared at him for a long beat before replying evenly. "Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Burke. We'll finish our meal and be on our way." But Raymond wasn't done. His pride flared. "I'm afraid that won't be necessary," he said, straightening. "I don't believe this is the right environment for you. I think it's best you leave." They stood. Simone's voice was quiet but unshakable. "We understand. Have a good evening, Mr. Burke." Raymond felt a pang of uncertainty as he watched them walk out, dignified and silent. But he quickly buried it. In his mind, he had protected Belle Maison's image. He had exercised his right. What he didn't know was that Everett and Simone Carter weren't just any couple. They were founders of Carter Holdings, a multi-million-dollar hospitality investment firm. And what Raymond saw as exclusion, they saw as an opportunity point. 3 days later, Raymond received a letter from a top-tier law firm representing an anonymous buyer interested in purchasing Belle Maison and its affiliate establishments. The offer was lucrative, more than double the market value. His investors were thrilled. They urged him to accept quickly before the mystery buyer changed their mind. Raymond walked into the high-rise conference room for the meeting, expecting a real estate magnate or hedge fund executive. Instead, seated at the far end of the table were Everett and Simone Carter, For a moment, his confidence crumbled. "Mr. Burke," Everett said smoothly, rising. "Thank you for joining us." Raymond remained speechless. He sat down slowly, his mind racing that Simone's tone was cordial but firm. "We're prepared to purchase Belle Maison and all related assets. You'll be well compensated. But there are conditions." Raymond's eyes narrowed. "Conditions? You'll step away entirely," Simone said. "No public statements. No interviews. No association with the brand moving forward." Raymond flushed. "Why would I agree to that?" Everett met his eyes calmly. "Because the alternative is a public narrative you can't control. We'll walk away from this deal, and then we'll walk into the media. You know which story will spread fastest." Raymond saw the trap and recognized its strength. He had no leverage. His only options were wealth or ruin if he signed. Over the next weeks, Belle Maison underwent a quiet but profound transformation. The name remained, but the soul of the place evolved. Simone introduced dishes inspired by multiple cultures while maintaining French elegance. Everett oversaw staff diversity training and new hiring practices. The atmosphere became welcoming rather than guarded. Word spread. Critics returned, this time applauding not just the food, but the warmth. The Carter's Belle Maison thrived like never before. Raymond, meanwhile, became a ghost. The community turned on him. Investors distanced themselves. Former employees spoke out about past discrimination, reinforcing the Carter's decision. Local press ran headlines like, "The owner who lost everything to the people he dismissed." With each article, Raymond's bitterness deepened. He retreated into obscurity, living alone in a modest condo on the outskirts of the city. Months later, on a lonely evening, he called Belle Maison to make a reservation. The hostess responded, polite but unmoved. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're fully booked." He paused. "This is Raymond Burke." "I understand, Mr. Burke," she replied. "But the earliest available table is in 4 weeks." He hung up without replying. Outside, autumn wind rustled the trees. Inside, Raymond sat in silence that he had the money, but he'd lost everything that gave his life meaning. The restaurant wasn't his anymore. Neither was the world he once controlled. The pride that guided him had become his downfall. And now, no one looked up to him. No one whispered about his power. No one remembered his name. Everyone remembered the Carters, and Belle Maison stood stronger than ever.